All right, yeah, so before we get started, I guess this is my first one-on-one. So, um,
Nice.
anybody who's followed me before, the Out of Pocket Sports, just all my stuff's just been written in written format and articles, stuff like that. I've had like one other interview, but as far as one-on-ones, like video goes, this will be the first video on YouTube, the first interview I've done where like the fans and the followers and subscribers and everything will actually see my face. Nobody even knows my name yet, so it's kind of cool. But, first of all, thank you for doing this, agreeing to do this. So I guess we'll start like way in the beginning because I don't even know if you know this, but me and you, we grew up in like the same town. So you're from Farrell, so I lived on the West Hill, so I was like 7 minutes from you.
Got you. Heck yeah.
So what was that like going from, because you moved to Columbus, right?
Yep.
What was that like going from Farrell and that area to Columbus?
Man. So culture shock first. So I went from Farrell as a young kid, elementary school age, moved to Dublin, which is a suburb of Columbus, a really affluent area, you know what I mean? So coming from a school where I was used to like all black kids and then maybe a couple of white kids in my grade or my class, my school in general, I went to quite the opposite, where it was like in high school, I was one of 77 black kids out of 2,000 kids in the whole school, and so, that's like 700 kids per class, and we probably get, maybe 20 kids per class that are black. So went from being the majority to the very, very small minority. And not only that, but it was a really great, like, eye-opening experience because I then was also exposed to a lot of different cultures. I had friends from India, China, Japan, the Middle East, all over the place, and was able to experience different cultures at the age of 10, seeing bar mitzvahs and Indian weddings and,
Right.
Middle East, how they did, how my Islamic friends did Ramadan and all those things. It was pretty amazing.
So you started playing when you played. How many guys were on the football team there? Because that had to. I mean, I know about Dublin. That's a big school.
Oh yeah, like my senior year, I think we had like 125 kids on the team.
On the team, yeah. Wow.
On varsity, and then we also have probably another 80 kids on a freshman team. So in the program at any given time, you've got about 175 kids, 9th through 12th grade. So we had we had players who had double numbers on the team, like there's 2 number 80s or something,
Right.
Stuff like that.
So like, the size of that school and the level of competition in high school, I would imagine, going from high school to college and then from college to the pro, like the level of competitiveness, was that a big jump from high school to college, or was it a bigger jump from college to the pros, would you say?
So
because you were a 5-star, you were the number one offensive tackle in the nation coming out of high school. So
yeah. So I would say for me, my experience was probably, every experience is its own. But in my experience and, in general, there's a significant jump from each level. But I was extremely prepared coming from high school. And I think physically, the jump was never physical at any level. It's always mental. Um, as a high school kid, I was like the number 3 overall recruit, number 1 offensive tackle. So I went in and right away was able to, prove myself and assert myself dominantly, physically. It was more about learning the X's and O's of football, being able to figure things out from a mental standpoint so that you're able to execute fast enough to play at your fastest speed. And then once you get to the NFL, it's the same thing. The game gets faster, not necessarily because the athletes are that much faster in the NFL, which, I mean, they are. It's the best guys from it's the best couple dudes from every team. So they're that much better athletically, but also mentally. You know, the way guys prepare when you make that jump from college to the NFL, you know, is just that much better. You know what I mean? Like, these are professionals who, the same way that, you know, your finance guy, you know, knows the market and studies the market and stays up all night studying charts and doing all that stuff. These are guys who do that about football and about taking care of their bodies and learning their playbooks. And, so the mental jump is the thing, and the quicker that you can make that happen, the faster you can play fast and execute fast, the faster you can play well.
So was it so you played for Jim Tressel, so, and I know, like, I've heard stories about Tress. Like, he's not like a yeller. He's not one of like those wild coaches, you know, on the sideline. Even like you watch him during games and stuff, like he's calm, cool, collected all the time. So was that kind of, because like I don't know how your coach was in high school, but like I know every coach I ever had in high school was just nuts. So like, was it kind of like did it screw you up a little bit going from the coach you had in high school to playing with Tressel? Like, how was that adjustment, just coaching staff wise?
No, it wasn't a thing for me at all. I played for a Hall of Fame coach in high school who, I mean, he'd get after it sometimes, but he wasn't like a screamer, a yeller at all. You know, he's just, I mean, so there's different reasons why different coaches in different places have to do that. And when you're at a place like Dublin Kaufman, where you have 120 kids, you have a huge talent pool, everybody's expected to know their stuff, to do the work, you know, like to really do it. Like, nobody ever has to tell you to do something. When you're in that program, you just know, this is what I do because this is how I'm supposed to do it, you know, and this is what it takes to be successful. So in that program, like, if a kid doesn't want to show up and doesn't want to give it his all, it's just going to be the next man up. So you're only going to hurt yourself. Like, a coach might tell you once, but he's not going to come back and tell you the same thing about the same mistake twice or three times. It's up to you to limit that. So the coaches don't have to yell as much when the kids are motivated. When you're in a school like Brookfield or like a Sharon or Farrell, where you don't have another kid to fill in for that kid if he just dicks around the whole time, you know what I mean? So you have to, like, it gets you pissed because you're frustrated, because you can't just be like, all right, get out, I'll get the next guy in. You don't have a next guy. So you got to yell, and you have to really like drive it home to these kids. But when you're in a bigger atmosphere, the culture, I mean, in a winning culture, the culture is just different, to where the standard is the standard, a lot like how Mike Tomlin always says. And, you know, you just kind of understand that. So I just always knew that, you know, with having a lot of gifts and a lot of ability and things like that, that there's a lot expected of me. So I never really gave a coach a reason. You know, I had an O-line coach who in high school, who I loved to death, still very close with to this day, who was a little bit of a yeller, but not really too bad, really.
So you were a second round pick, 56 overall, right?
Yep.
So DeCastro went in the first round, and then
Yep.
Beecham was in the 7th round that year, right?
Yep.
And so who gave you the phone call? Was it Mike Tomlin? Was it the Rooneys, Colbert?
So they're all there, but first, when I answered the phone, it was the offensive line coach, and then Coach Tomlin. Yeah.
And what was that like? I mean, that had to be crazy, because being from Farrell, I imagine you were a Steelers fan.
Yeah, it was pretty
That'd be
dope.
incredible, man. How was that? Like, the emotions probably wild.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I actually was on the phone with the Jets, and they were like, "Yeah, we're up in like 2 picks after Pittsburgh and 2 picks. We're gonna pick you." And I was like, "Oh, cool, sick!" Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as soon as I even hit the end button on my phone, before I could say anything, Pittsburgh O-line coach popped up on my thing because I had his number saved. And as soon as that popped up, I knew what time it was, and I answered. And yeah, we had that whole talk, and it was pretty incredible.
So you and DeCastro both being rookies that year, like there was probably some camaraderie being on the offensive line and like learning the system, you know, as rookies and everything. Who would you say was your like best friend on that line? Because you were learning from Max Starks is still there, right?
Yeah, Dave was my best friend for sure. He's probably my best friend that I've got from my whole time in the NFL. We trained for the combine together coming out, and then got drafted together, you know, and then inevitably became roommates for camp and away games and all the stuff. So yeah, Dave and I got really close. Our rookie year, he tore his MCL and had to have surgery during camp in August against the Bills, I think, in a preseason game. So he was out for most of the year. I ended up starting at right tackle and won Rookie of the Year that year, but I got hurt week 11 against the Browns, like a grade 3 high ankle sprain, and was on IR for the rest of the year. So when I came out, Dave was just getting healthy and coming back into play. So we didn't actually get to play together that year, but we were able to support each other and all that stuff. And then and we also were training partners, so we lifted together all year. But our second year, well, I guess our second year was kind of a little crazy. You know, I got stabbed in the off season, an attempted carjacking, and that set me back pretty bad. I wasn't really able to play effectively. So after 4 weeks, I got benched, and you know, so that I could focus on training and getting healthy again. Which it took a better part of that year to kind of get right physically. I played a bunch of tight end and stuff like that, just so that like I could be on the field and we could have extra blockers and really run the ball. But my third year, I was healthy, best shape of my career, and me and Dave played together on the right side, and we like had a heck of a year. We got a couple of game balls as O-line for games where Ben threw for 500 plus yards and 6 touchdowns. We give up no sacks and stuff like that. So it was pretty dope. But as far as being a young guy and people I learned from, I had a really great coach my rookie year, Sean Kugler, O-line coach. And the older guys were good to learn from. Marquise Pouncey is a hell of a leader, a hell of an offensive lineman, one of the best ever. But he was a center. So I learned a lot from him, just like about being a pro and about football, stuff like that. But as far as the position of offensive tackle, my coach, you know, really taught me a lot. But it was kind of just, you know, when you get to the pros, it's just come in and be physical and do what you do. You know what I mean? Learn the system. So it was up to me and my coach to get the mental part of the game down.
So you lost a bunch of weight, man. We gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, what are you eating? Like, I mean, you're probably not lifting like you used to. Imagine it's a lot of cardio now, and probably, I know you're doing yoga and stuff.
No, I don't really do any cardio. It all comes from what you eat. You can do any workout you want to, but you can't out train a bad diet. You know, so like you go do all the cardio in the world, but if you go home and eat pizza and ice cream, like it's not going to matter. You know, so for me, it was really just like, as an offensive lineman being that big, like nobody's naturally that big. Like there's not one person in this world who's naturally 300 pounds. That's just not the way it works. So it's a lot of work to be that big and to be that fit, you know, to be a 320-pound guy with 15% body fat, you know, when I was a pro football player, you know, we do a lot of body composition testing, and like not by skin folds and all that fake stuff. It's like real body density. You're either in water or you're in a bod pod. And the amount of muscle mass that I had on my body and my playing career is how much I weigh totally now. You know what I mean? Which
Right.
is kind of crazy. So yeah, I'm like 250 now. I played at 315, 325 ish normally. Um, and the only thing that I really changed was I just stopped eating a lot of white starchy stuff. So white bread, white pasta, white potatoes, all that. And I was just still working out. I started doing yoga during my career, and that was a big tool in my career, along with nutrition, that helped me get to a really stable, healthy playing weight for my last couple of years at like 305, 310. But yeah, it all comes down to the food, really.
So like what do you eat? So like breakfast, lunch, dinner, are you snacking in between? Like what's your schedule like?
Yeah, pretty much. I just eat when I'm hungry. I eat all day. I'll have a good breakfast, bunch of fruits and stuff like that. Um, Fruits, maybe some eggs, things like that. But then throughout the day, I'm snacking all the time, trail mix and different stuff like that. Staying hydrated is a really big thing, because a lot of times you're not really hungry, you're just dehydrated, and your body just wants something. You know what I mean? So um, all of that. But I mean, I probably eat a good 6, 7,000 calories of food a day because I'm really active. You know, I teach a lot of hot yoga through the day. I do a lot of hot yoga. I lift a few times a week. So, you know, I'm out and about, riding bikes, rollerblading, doing things.
But
I live
during
in
like
Tampa.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you about that. What made you move down to Tampa?
Yeah. Just really just wanting more opportunity, um, bigger community, and the things that I like to do. It's tough to gain exposure and experience in a place where the community isn't really that together and really that big yet. So moving here, it's a place that the weather's a lot nicer, so I feel a lot better.
Right.
Um, and the yoga and mindfulness and just like whole high vibe community, mindfulness community as a whole, are way bigger and way more established. So just a lot more opportunities down here. I've had the opportunities to go and teach at different places throughout the state, the world, teach at different festivals, um, all types of different stuff, really. So the relationships that I've been able to form with different companies and brands, like I work hand in hand with Lululemon. They support me in any endeavors that I'm getting into, as far as helping people and spreading positivity and mindfulness and breath and yoga and movement, all that stuff. So it's been a move that I was pretty nervous about, because I'd never moved far away from home, but one that's paid off crazily.
That's awesome, man. So you're in Tampa, so now I gotta make the Antonio Brown connection to Tampa. So what was it like playing with AB? Because like everybody, I've listened to tons of interviews from AB himself and teammates that he's had, coaches. Everybody, has awesome things to say about AB as far as work ethic goes, and hardest worker in the room, first one in, last one out type of guy.
Oh yeah, he was absolutely, like, as a teammate, he was incredible. You never had to, like, you knew he was going to show up, and what you were going to get, you're going to get the best in the world. You know, um, I think there was, with coming along with that, him being a guy from Central Michigan, like, what was it, undrafted or like 6th round draft pick or
Around
something.
yeah.
Yeah, and a guy who didn't have a lot of notoriety, and then gaining all of that fame really quickly. You know, um, making the Pro Bowl as a returner in his first or second year, and then as a wideout, being the best wideout in the game for 6 years straight. Um, I think when someone is built up that fast, and then overnight, which, from what came to be a false accusation or whatever, it's not my place, um, to have to be in a place where you're getting millions of mentions a day. You're in Drake's God playing video. You're working out on the beach, and, like, there's hundreds of kids following you, running through the city, like, all that love to overnight just getting hundreds of thousands and millions of negative mentions and people just tearing you apart. You know, a lot of people say CTE this, CTE that. I mean, I think if you put anybody in those shoes where the world literally turns against them at the snap of a finger, you probably would kind of lose your shit a little bit too, you know. I thought AB was an incredible teammate. He was always really great to me. Um, it's, I think the pressures of the world and the things going on in the world and maybe the people he has around him um, have maybe kind of led him to make some questionable decisions, questionable to us, but who are we to judge, you know? I just hope that, you know, through all of his situations and all of like the negative attention, that he's still able to have that positive energy and light in his heart that I know he's got. Um, and that he still has at the forefront of his mind of making a positive impact, of being that kid from Liberty City who came from nothing and who, you know, now has the world at his fingertips. I just hope that he still thinks about using that for good. And, you know, AB is a smart guy. He's a conscious guy. I think that at the end of the day, he's going to have the right things in mind. And I just hope that when, you know, his opportunities arise, that he keeps being able to take advantage of them.
I'm rooting for the guy, man. He was electric. He was so fun to watch, dude. I bet you he was so fun to play with too. I mean,
oh, dude, the stuff you'd see him do in practice was even better than the games. It was incredible.
I mean, breaking the huddle with that guy had to be crazy. Him and Ben, man, Le'Veon Bell, you guys had that was a squad. that was crazy.
Yeah, the killer bees.
Awesome. But so what was Ben like to play with? Was he real like? Because I mean, I've heard some stories about him not being super social with the teammates and stuff like that. But was it like? Well, it wasn't.
Yeah, you hear a lot about Ben. I I would say, you know, much like all of us, the man that Ben is today isn't the man that Ben was 10 years ago, you know. When I played with Ben, you know, he was at a point in his career where he was an older guy, you know, already a Hall of Famer, was looking to add some good years on the end of his career, you know, really trying to win championships. And I think he was a frustrated guy because he was on such young teams. But, you know, I mean, honestly, when I played with him, he was amazing to play with on the field, but as a guy, he just kind of sucked. You know, he was a dick. He didn't have many friends on the team. Nobody liked to hang out with him, stuff like that, because he was kind of just mean to everybody and acted like he was a lot better than everyone else, you know. You hear about guys like Tom Brady, who, you know, is better than everybody. He's the best to ever do it. And all that people say is that he treats everybody the same and that he's just one of the guys and he just likes to go out and have fun. And as a Steelers fan growing up, going to play for Ben, I was so excited. And, you know, I was like super let down when I got there and saw how he was with dudes on the team and just how he interacted with guys. But I will say, as the years went on and, you know, Ben had kids and things like that, it seemed like he started to get a little cooler. I don't know. But once I was gone, I know for certain that, like, when Ben had that year where he couldn't play and he hurt his elbow, um, and you could publicly see that he had like a coming to Jesus moment. He did the big TED talk where he went on stage and talked about his addictions to porn and about him being a bad husband and things like that, and about him finding Jesus and, like, you know, coming back to God and getting right. And it was really amazing to see that, because at that point I still had a couple of guys on the team who were like, dude, he's so different now. He's so great to play with. He's awesome to be around. He's like fun, you know. And you could see him trying to let that come out when I was there. It was just, I think we all need a little bit of something to happen to us to be able to appreciate what we got and to be able to appreciate the moment that we're in, regardless of the circumstance. And it seems like he's had that. So to see him in the end of his career would be so awesome to the young guys and stuff like that. Like it really, really healed a lot of the things that I felt and that I had experienced with him. Yeah.
And bringing that full circle, like, it kind of makes sense now hearing you say that. Like, Antonio Brown's kind of like he's an emotional guy. Like he plays with his heart on his sleeve. He's, if he wasn't feeling like he was getting the appreciation from Ben and then going to play with somebody like Brady, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of makes
100%.
sense, it kind of makes sense hearing you say that.
Yeah, so that's the thing too about AB is like everyone will talk about how he's all crazy, but like nothing that he says is wrong. I mean, some stuff like he might go a little over the top about like, I mean, no, he doesn't go over the top about anything. I think AB, everything he says, he's so honest about, bro. Like you talk about the Bruce Arians thing when he was on the pivot talking about it, and he's like, I mean, no, bro, if a coach said that to me, like, you're done, get the fuck out of here, I'd have acted a fool too. You know what I mean? Especially like if you're a guy who's in a position who can do that, you're an established guy who really means something. Like you're not a backup O lineman, you're not a backup tight end or some special teams linebacker who can just get replaced. Like that's wild. You know what I mean? The stuff he said about Ben, like, yeah, bro, Ben never wanted to hang out with any of us. You know, like nobody was going to kick into his house. I think Pouncey probably went over there once or twice, and that's Pouncey's his Hall of Fame center,
Right.
and like, but it was all, I don't know, when you go against the organization or when you stand against the shield, like the NFL's favorite thing is like no one's bigger than the shield, so like when you go against that, there's going to be backlash, and I think AB got a fair amount of that.
Absolutely. So, you got any Mike Tomlin stories? I want to hear like a good Tomlin, a funny Tomlin story.
Or Coach T, dude, that guy's amazing. He's awesome. All the things that you hear about him, just how intelligent he is, and how cerebral he is, and how motivating and uplifting he is. He's all that and more. He is probably, I mean, he's one of the smartest people I've met, and I've had the pleasure of meeting some incredible people from around the world. Mike Tomlin is just a man who walks the walk, and when it talks about living intentionally, I don't think there's probably too many more who really live that and are a better display of that than him. I guess a funny Mike Tomlin story is kind of, so in the NFL you have a weight, like a set weight that you're supposed to be, like a little 3 or 4 or 5 pound range that you're supposed to be in every Thursday at weigh-ins. And if you're over or under your weight limit, they can fine you like $1,800 a pound, right? So my second year, or my first year, when Max Starks was there and me and Gilbert were there, there was a point in the year where like we were just way too big, like fat. When I first got to Pittsburgh, the offensive linemen who were there were all really big dudes, like old school type of dudes. Like, to be frank, they were all big fat dudes, like big strong dudes, but they're fat. We had guards who were like 380 pounds, pushing 4 bills. A great guard is like 320, 315. You know what I'm saying? 330 maybe. Max was the biggest tackle I had ever seen at that point. And there was one point in the season where he was like 400 pounds plus. I was sitting at like 350 at one point. Marcus Gilbert was sitting at somewhere like 360. And my range was like 320, 325. Gilbert's was like about the same. Max's was probably about 370. And we all weigh in, and like the strength coach is just like, he's like, what? He's like, what am I supposed to tell the boss? Like, what are you guys doing? And like he goes and tells Mike, and Coach T comes down, and he just comes down, he's pissed. He's like livid. His face is like, everybody's like, oh fuck. And he's just like, y'all three? y'all got 1 week to get this shit right, or I'm getting in all of y'all's pockets for as much as I can. And bro, you never seen three like huge giant grown men so shook. We all like went, got in the sauna. We're like sitting in the sauna and steam room every day, like twice a day, just killing ourselves to lose weight. And yeah, we all leaned out, all that stuff. Took a couple weeks to drop some pounds, but we got right. But that's probably why we were 8-8 that year and terrible. Part of
it. That's funny, man. But so what about the Roonies? Like, you ever talk to the Roonies, or did they ever come down for practices and stuff like that, or did they kind of just?
Yeah, they're around every day, all day.
So you got to have some conversations with them and stuff like that.
Every day.
That's awesome.
They're around just like anybody else. Like DMR, old man Rooney, rest in peace. He'd be around every day. He would, for a while, he could still drive himself. So he would drive in every day, come in, see the trainers, get stretched out, come out to practice. He'd be out at practice every day. And then Art, who runs things, he's there all the time. Just like one of the guys, I mean, they're incredibly accessible people, which when you go to other teams in the league and you tell them like how cool you could be with the owners and how personable they were and how you can know their whole family and stuff like that, they'd be like, man, what? And they'd ask questions like that, like, wait, like they were actually there? And it's like, yeah, they're there every day. Mr. Rooney signed every paycheck. Like in Pittsburgh, direct deposit like wasn't a thing. You could have your check sent to your financial advisor and they could deposit it because Mr. Rooney hand signed every single check.
That's awesome. Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because you played for the Bears in 2016.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the Bears were another really good organization. They're two of the classic historical organizations in football. So the McCaskey family in Chicago, I mean, honestly, they took way better care of the players when it comes down to nutrition and recovery and like their whole player staff, like weight room staff, their weight room staff and training staff, miles and miles above Pittsburgh, and just the resources they gave us. The stuff that the Bears gave us were the things that in Pittsburgh you had to go out and seek for yourself.
So like, meaning like, what's an example of that? Like,
I mean, like if you want to get acupuncture,
okay.
You just go in the training room. They got an acupuncturist in there. If you want all that kind of stuff in Pittsburgh, you got to go out and contract your own doctors to come to your house on your own time. You go in the training room, you're getting ice, stretch, hot tub, cold tub. It's just all like the most basic stuff. Their head trainer in Pittsburgh was a guy who had been there for a really long time. He's a company man. He's not really, like he's won some awards, but I mean, honestly, I thought he was a pretty terrible trainer. I saw him do a bunch of people dirty. You know what I mean? He tried to get me when I hurt my back, tried to do me pretty dirty. But they do, on the same token, have the first, I think, full-time female athletic trainer in the NFL, Sonia Gislin. She's got a different last name now. But she was incredible. I actually worked with her at Ohio State as well. And she's when she came in, she kind of changed the culture a little bit, but she's pretty incredible.
You brought up Ohio State, so you were part of the Tattoo Five.
The top five, baby.
So there's there you go. There it is right there. So the NIL stuff that's going on now, and I'm not exactly sure, like I haven't really looked into the fine print on any of this NIL stuff completely, but I mean, it's great for the players. I'm 100% for the NIL. I think that's great what they're doing now. If this had been in place when you were in college, I mean, how much easier would that be to go through? Because, like, I hear crazy stories about people going through college, you know, they're on basketball teams or football teams. And, like, I think even I heard you say it. I was listening to another interview. Like, you can't even have people buy you lunch or buy you
Yeah,
dinner.
man.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
The
I mean,
NCAA is a big sham. Those people,
yeah,
like, it's incredible the way that they marginalize these. I mean, and let's be real about it. Like, we're talking big time football, basketball, money. We're talking about young black men and a governing body of old white people who are monitoring and setting the barriers and limits for how these young black people can market themselves and how they can make money and how they can start and run an enterprise based on their likeness and image, um, which they weren't allowed to do. Like, you know, they're just profiting off of all of these people. Um, the NCAA is so garbage. Like, it's incredible that that was able to go on for so long, that they were able to really exploit people like that. For these kids now to be able to set themselves up without going to the NFL, to be able to make money for themselves, for their families, and to be able to learn financial literacy and all these types of things at a young age. Like, you're talking about kids who come from backgrounds where a lot of them don't have any finance, any knowledge in finance. Their families don't have any financial literacy. They have no wealth. You're giving kids an opportunity at a young age to really be able to create generational wealth and to rewrite the ship and to give themselves a fighting chance. So I'm really happy about it. I can't wait to see where it goes, how it goes. Um, there's just so much opportunity, and you know, for me to be a guy who is a part of something that really paved the way for this, because you know, the whole Tap 5 thing in Ohio State, like, when that happened, it changed forever after our situation. Um, right after that happened was, you know, the Miami stuff happened, but it was a little bit different. But like Johnny Manziel and guys like that started getting in trouble for signing autographs and stuff, which was stuff that guys like us did, you know. And they kind of figured out that if I just say, no, it didn't happen, or stuff like that, that, like, you can't get in trouble, you know, no matter how much they dig, as long as there's not a paper trail, you know. But it started to also change the thought process at that point. Like, man, look what they did to these kids and this amazing coach at Ohio State. And now look what they're trying to do to these players for signing autographs for money, for selling memorabilia. Like, so to be a person who, I guess you would say, paid it forward, or kind of took the fall for things to change, you know, I love it. You know what I mean? It sucked going through as a young kid, and it was a traumatizing experience, and it definitely um, changed, you know, my overall football experience and time at Ohio State. Um, but I appreciate it so much for what it was, and so much for what it's changed for these kids. You know, that original players coalition that's formed at Northwestern after our situation happened. Um, you know, I'm thankful that those kids made the decision to step up and really pave the way for what we got going on here now.
it sucks seeing, you know, Jim Tressel, he go down like that because, you know, I mean, I think he just retired actually at YSU.
Yep.
But, you know, it was cool to see him back in town, but not under those circumstances, you know,
Yeah.
because I don't think he was anywhere done at
Yeah.
Ohio
Not
State.
anywhere close, right?
Not anywhere
And
close.
I think that next year, my senior year, you know, that was the year that we all were waiting for. You know what I mean? We're talking about senior Terrell Pryor, senior Mike Adams, Boom Herron, DeVere Posey, the best players in the league, in the country. Like, bro, we were gonna be unreal,
Yeah.
you know. And our junior year that we had that year, we were unreal. You know, we came one game away from it all. You know, a fluke loss at Wisconsin when J.J. Watt played out of his mind. But you know, we had a heck of a year. Won a Sugar Bowl, 13-1. You know, we were averaging 45 or 46 points a game in a I formation pro style offense. Number one defense in the country. You know, multiple. You know, we have first rounder, multiple draft picks all over that place, and like, dude, yeah, it was a heck of a squad. So it was sad to see it end prematurely. And then I was also sad to see Urban Meyer get like credit for Tress's success on the 12-0 season with all of Tress's guys and stuff like that. Because I'm not a fan of Urban at all. You know, I didn't go to play for him in Florida because I thought he was kind of sleazy.
Yeah.
And I
We saw
love
that in
Tress.
Jacksonville. We saw that in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, dude. And when he came to Ohio State, like me and him were cool and stuff, but like, I just don't. I'm a lead with love kind of guy, and the way that he treated the kids, dude, was just downright trash. You know what I mean? And that's why he's not there. You know, like Urban Meyer isn't at Ohio State because Urban Meyer isn't an Ohio State guy. You know, like the motto of Ohio State back from Woody Hayes days is you win with people. And Urban didn't personify that at all. You know, he looked at people like numbers. You know, he didn't look at he didn't look at those young men and women around campus as, you know, future change makers, future difference makers in our country, you know, regardless of how well they could play football or what they could do for him. And as a college football coach, you have a responsibility to, get the kid there to play for you. But once the kid gets there to play for you, regardless of how his football ability turns out, you made a commitment to be a coach of a young man and to nurture and grow him as a young man to his family. And I think that's, you know, I mean, you look at his track record, he's great at grooming football players, but everywhere he goes falls apart and it's a train wreck. And there's when his recruits get in there, people just start getting in trouble and all this crazy stuff happens. And so, I mean, you get what you
to build a culture, I guess, when you're not, you know, involved in people's lives outside of X's and O's. Like,
exactly.
It's hard to get people to buy in, I guess. But do you still talk to Tressel or Tomlin or any of your old coaches?
I still talk to Tress. When I was still living up in the area a couple of years ago, I did a good amount of outreach with Tress, just different stuff in the community. And so, I still talk to him.
You talk to Tomlin at all ever?
I don't. I haven't talked to Mike T. It's kind of funny you asked. I thought about just shooting him a text one day because I watched his episode of The Pivot.
That was awesome.
I just thought it was great. Haven't talked to him for a while, but he's one of those guys where you could reach out just to say what's up, you know what I mean, and to check on him, and he would hit you back, and that love's always there, you know what I mean. The appreciation's always there. When you work with a guy like that, and you're successful and have good years and stuff with a guy like that, you always have some sort of a relationship.
I've heard you mention like James Harrison being one of the funniest teammates you ever played with. Tell me a funny Harrison story, because dude, I love James Harrison, man. I love watching him play. I love him as a person.
Oh, dude, it's everything, bro. He's always walking around rapping and acting wild, and just like I think he said he wants to get into acting.
I hope he does.
And it's like I could totally see it, because he's just a big goofball, bro. He walks around, he's always just messing around, joking around, or like he might walk up on a young dude acting serious and like, just like mess with him, scare him a little bit, and then just like completely just start cracking up and have it like we all know he's joking,
Right.
like stuff like that,
Where was the
he's huge, so he's always talking about how big his back is, which is a wild thing, bro. He's hilarious.
Where was the hardest place to play, would you say, like in the NFL and in college? Not necessarily like the toughest team, but like the atmosphere and like just the most nerve-wracking. I imagine probably the Sugar Bowl was, but like other than that,
the Sugar Bowl was dope. It was the loudest time. It was the loudest crowd noise I've ever heard, because it's a dome. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
we had the dome sold out. It was wild, and we're coming out of our own end zone, backed up on like the 3-yard line, and we're playing Arkansas. So they do like their pig suey thing, and they like have the cowbells and all their stuff, and they jingle their keys. And we're coming out, and when I went to get my 3-point stance, I put my hand in the ground, and the ground was shaking.
Wow.
I was like, holy shit. But no, all the Big Ten, the Big Ten stadiums, Wisconsin, Penn State, Iowa, Michigan, those are incredible, like absolutely incredible. Far wilder and louder and crazier than any NFL stadium. The closest thing to it, I would say, are like Denver. My first NFL game was in Denver at night, Peyton Manning's first game, the first game after Tebow had beat the Steelers in the playoffs, so it was wild. It was super loud. They pumped the crowd noise in there. That was the craziest NFL experience, like atmosphere I'd ever seen, though. And Arrowhead is a really loud one too.
Yeah. The city gets wild.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, you're out of the league now. You're a fan of football still? Like you're still watching the Steelers and the Buckeyes every Saturday and Sunday? And
yeah, I watch the Buckeyes every Saturday for the most part. I mean, Buckeyes I watch every week.
Yeah.
If they're playing like some scrub team, I might watch like the first half or something and then go have my day. But as far as NFL goes, I pretty much watch everybody. I don't really have a favorite team at all. I watch the Ohio State guys,
Right.
And so I just kind of tune into that. I root for Pittsburgh if they're on usually. But yeah, man, I just enjoy watching good ball. I go to a lot of Ohio State games. I went to my first NFL game since I retired this past year. It was the Bucks Rams game in the playoffs, so that was pretty dope. So yeah, man.
What's your Buckeyes predictions then for the year?
Oh, bro, this year we're going all the way.
All the way, Natties, huh? Natty champs.
Yeah, winning it. Yeah, Natty champs.
2023 is gonna be a good year too, because I
think so. I think the quarterback's gonna win the Heisman this year. I think Stroud's gonna win the Heisman. It's gonna be a heck of a year.
2023 is gonna be even crazier, I think. I think it's gonna be because you guys got on 5-star receivers coming up, and then they're probably not even gonna play next year. You still got 5-star receivers from.
Bro, the receivers this year, our receiving core this year is going to be unreal, just based off of the bowl game. Everybody who didn't play.
Smith.
Yeah, Jackson Smith, Marvin Harrison Jr. Just from everybody not playing and those guys getting that exposure. It's gonna be pretty dope.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be fun. I have to admit I'm a Penn State fan, but I do enjoy watching Buckeyes. I do watch Buckeyes football. It is fun. It is fun to watch. They're so good, man. It's just It's refreshing to watch like a college program like Ohio State. They're so consistently good every year, and they just seem to do it the right way. Like you don't hear a ton of there's not a ton of distractions, I guess. It doesn't feel like anyway. For a program that big and that successful, you would expect there to be some more.
Yeah, I think anytime the distractions start to creep in, Coach Day does a really good job of keeping the team out of that.
And that's another thing too. Tomlin, it seems like for a while there, he was getting a lot of flack for, like, losing control of the locker room, is what everybody loved to say.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. I mean, I imagine, like, I picture Tomlin as just the ultimate players guy, like the players coach. And it seemed like, to tie this in with the Ohio State stuff, it seems like he did a really good job of keeping everything under wraps for as long as he could with, the whole Antonio Brown situation and, Juju TikToking and stuff. I don't know why that became such a big deal, but it did. So he was able to handle that, and like the Claypool stuff last year and the year before with, talking about we need music at practice and all this stuff.
Yeah, he does a really good job at just, keeping everything, controlling what he can control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But yeah, man, I wrote down a couple of questions because I had some Ohio State fans. I might have hit them all, actually. Oh, I don't know if you remember this, but you probably don't even remember this, but how do I say this without saying names? I have a friend who used to live by. I was at his house watching Steelers football. You were on the roster, but I think that was the year that you hurt your back.
Oh,
Pittsburgh
yeah.
was in the playoffs, and you were back home.
Yep.
We were watching the Steelers game together in his garage.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was wild because I think, I was still in high school. So it was like kind of wild because like I was talking to you, but I'm like you should be there right now, like you should be like, I'm like, this is like kind of fanboying out a little bit because I'm like, I'm a diehard Steelers fan. So it was crazy, but I don't even know if you remember that.
Love that. Yeah, man, I do. I remember that.
You remember that?
Oh, it's awesome.
You're a big bow hunter.
Yep.
So what's like making the move from Ohio to Florida? Like, how's that going to translate? You got to come back up here, right? I mean,
oh yeah. I come up there and hunt. I've got a piece of property that I help manage. We manage pretty strictly for whitetails. It's real big, so I come up there a couple weeks at a time, do my thing.
That's cool. Are you planning on? Do you fish or anything too, or are you just strictly bow hunt?
Down here, I'm getting into more of the water stuff. I just went scalloping the other day for the first time, cool. So that was dope. But yeah, mostly just like bow hunting.
Yeah, Florida would be the perfect place to get into fishing. That's why I was asking, because I figured it would be a little tricky to go down there and hunt, but.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff you can come down and hunt, hogs, and they do have deer down here. They're just really small and there's not that many of them. But and turkeys are really big down here. But I like hunting in Midwest Ohio, deciduous forest. When you come hunt down here, bro, it's like snakes and spiders and alligators in the swamp, and that's not really what I'm into.
Yeah. I thought I had some more questions. Because I had a couple of those from Ohio State fans on Twitter. It's a surprise. I didn't tell anybody that I was interviewing you. I just said, hey, Buckeyes fans, like, we got something cooking. And hit me some DMs with some questions for some Buckeyes players. And I think I might have hit them all. But
dope.
Yeah, man, thank you for doing this. And you're always welcome to do this again. If, you got something to say, get it off your chest here, I guess,
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man, that's all. So thank you. Thanks for doing this. I'm gonna post this video on YouTube if that's cool with you, and then I'll post it to my Twitter as well. I followed you on Twitter, so when I post it, I can DM it to you or whatever. So
solid.
All right, man. I'm probably gonna write an article up on it too.
Cool.
Um,
Heck yeah.
but yeah, thanks for doing this again, and we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely, man. Take it easy and best of luck with all of it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Later, bro.
See ya.